The movie begins with a trailer for a black and white movie. It is in a cowboy setting of 1950s Western television series Bounty Law, and after the trailer, we get to meet the main character's actor and his body double, Rick and Cliff. Rick explains why there is a need for body double stunt actors, and the interview comes to an end. Then the scene shifts to 1965 outside of the camera, where a shot of around Hollywood is shown. The duo step off and then go to a bar. There, an old man comes to visit them. This man is an agent and a producer who tells Rick that he's a big fan of his. This is Mr. Schwartz, telling him that he watched his old movies that he loved. Turns out Rick is someone who does all of the stunts by himself, including any harmful stunts like playing with fire and such. Mr. Schwartz is really impressed by his work and has come to him with an offer. He asks Rick if he has any roles right now, and Rick tells him that he would be busy lately. Schwartz asks if he has ever played the role of a bad guy. Rick tries to lie his way through, but he offers him the role of a bad person who has to go to Italy. This does not sit well with Rick, and he denies the offer. Going outside, Cliff asks him what the matter, and Rick is sad. He cries that he has become a has-been and asked to work in Italian movies. This is where the career goes downhill. Cliff takes Rick to ride him back home. The scene then shifts to a group of girls scavenging through the trash around the town. While Rick is complaining to Cliff in the car, we learn that these two work around together, and Cliff does everything for Cliff as if he owes him. They stop when those girls are in the way. One of them does a peace sign toward Cliff, and he responds. As they come home and Cliff stops the car, Rick says that he is getting insecure about the movies and does not want to take part in any Italian Western movies. Then we also see on the side that a famous actress, Sharon Tate, and her new husband, director Roman Polanski, have moved into the house next door to Dalton's house. Rick tells Cliff that this is the first time that he has seen Polanski here, even though he had moved here a month ago. They say their byes to each other, and Cliff leaves. After going on a long drive and behind a theater, there is a trailer that he loves. Greeting his dog, he gets food and feeds both of them, living a life in there. On the other end, Rick is preparing food while he is also daydreaming about being friends with his neighbor, the director, and his wife, just for the chance he would be offered to work in a big movie role. Then Polanski and his wife, Sharon, get in the car, and after a long-time drive, they reach a Playboy manor. Sharon turns from her modest dress to her real self and starts to dance on the floor. There we learn about their past. Sharon had left her previous husband just to marry a richer man, and in this regard, that being Polanski. In the morning, Cliff now drops off Rick to the set where he got a role. He tells Cliff to run some errands back home. At the set, he meets Sam, the director, who introduces him to the team. Back to Cliff. He sees that girl once again and drives off. Back at Rick's place, he's working on the roof of his. The scene turns to the past of Rick and Cliff, where Rick is trying to get Cliff a job. But no one wants to take him because he has been charged with the murder of his wife. Because of this, Cliff is close to Rick, getting work. He's on set with Bruce Lee, but Cliff doesn't take him seriously and now asks for a fight. He beats Bruce but damages the director's car in the process. Because of this, he gets kicked out. At the set, Rick now meets a little girl who is a part of the cast. She asks him to sit with him, and she seems to be really smart because she's playing her part really well. Rick catches on that she is not telling her real name. They both talk about the literature they are reading, and during that, he gets emotional and starts to cry, but Caleb consoles him, and he is touched by this. We see Sharon giving a ride to someone and getting to a theater. On the other hand, Rick meets Jim Stacy, who talks about the projects and movies of Rick, being aware of his work. Back at Sharon, she enters the theater and tries to get the free ticket by telling the ticket house that she has starred in the movie, convincing them to let her in. Watching the movie, she gets emotional as she's happy with her own performance. In the scene, Rick is playing his part in the movie really well, but she starts to mess up some parts and forgets the lines. He is drunk before the set and returns to his trailer, vowing to himself never to touch the drinks ever again. Cliff is now again on the roads, but along the way, he meets that girl once again and she asks for a lift. He agrees, and during the ride, she starts to get uncomfortably close to him. He asks her for her ID or license, but she neglects it. Returning to the set, Rick continues the shooting, and in the act, he forcefully throws the girl but gets worried that he may have hurt her, but she tells him that it's only their work and this is how it should be. This touches Rick, and everyone congratulates him on his performance, relaxing him and relieving him of stress. The girl takes Cliff to where she lives, and everyone there starts to act strange around him to convince him to go back. Then he demands to meet the one in charge here. At first, all of the girls protest against it, but despite how much they tried, Cliff still makes his way inside. There he meets George, hoping that he will recognize him, but he doesn't as he is now blind. He used to be the director of the movie. Getting nowhere, he leaves. The hippie girls are now all mad at him, but he doesn't care. Returning to the car, he sees his tires stabbed. He beats up the man who did it and forces him to fix the tire. The girl goes to call for backup, and he is too late to return. Cliff has left. He picks up Rick from the set, and they return for home. They both watch the episode of FBI that Rick starred in. On the other side, Schwartz is also watching the episode, and the next day he calls Rick to offer him another role in an Italian Western movie. He believes them to be the lowest of lows, but he eventually agrees on it. 6 months pass, and he has done several movies and got married. However, he is not happy with this life and is considering selling his house and moving to a condo. Cliff is always supportive of him and helps him move to their new place. It is now on Sharon and Polanski. Sharon is now pregnant and Joan comes to meet her. The night falls and they all head to a restaurant. On the other end, Rick and Cliff also end up going there in that restaurant while Rick's wife is sleeping. While Sharon and Polanski have a nice family dinner, Rick and Cliff seem wasted. The families return to their houses and get to their usual lifestyle. Both of the families are using excessive amounts of drinks and drugs to get by their days. But for Cliff, he is enjoying his time at his job when he opens the case of cigarettes. He sees one acid-laced that the hippie girl sold off to him. Deciding to make it the day he smokes it. Going out, another car comes in, and it's of the hippies that Cliff messed with. Rick comes out of the house and then yells at them for being in his property. They want to shoot him but decide to return. As they back off, they figure out that the man is Rick Dalton. They are a big fan of his, but they decide to shoot him as they will kill the one who taught them to kill. They go out and one of the girls says that she had forgotten her knife in the car and takes the keys. She drives off and the others panic but decide to continue with their plan. Cliff returns to his house with his dog and he is hardly processing things. The hippies close onto the house while Cliff is preparing food for his dog and Rick is enjoying the pool. The dog tries to alert Cliff, but it doesn't work and they barge in. They try to attack and kill them, but it ends up horrible for them as Cliff recognizes them, and before they can do anything, Cliff and his dog take care of them. Cliff is shot and now falls. The girl in pain falls into the pool, shooting in the air. Rick goes inside and takes out a flamethrower. He burns her, killing her. Because of the bleeding, the Cliff is still down. The ambulance and the police arrive and Rick, his wife, and Cliff explain what happened and they get to go off as innocent and self-defense. When the ambulance goes away, Polanski asks about what happened and then gets to know that he was the one who used the flamethrower in an old movie. Recognizing his personality, his wife rings up and then they call Rick and his wife in for a drink. Rick goes in and gets to meet their family, and then the movie ends.